It's no longer news that countries around the world, especially those from the global south and non-Western countries such as China and Russia, have been looking for ways to reduce the hegemony of the West, particularly the United States. Although it has been a long time coming, the need became more apparent in 2022 after the Russia-Ukrainian war began, and the United States responded by hitting Russia with sanctions and freezing all its assets. The reason why the US could do that is that Russia, like every country in the world, stores the majority of its assets in the US dollar as a result of the Petrodollar agreement, which essentially made it mandatory for all countries to purchase oil with the US dollar. This agreement practically cemented the United States' status as the world superpower, because at the time the agreement was made, the dollar had already risen to prominence as the reserve currency of most countries. It also increased the value of the dollar against other currencies, thus leading to the hegemony of the United States. As the world power in terms of military and economics, the United States has used its power as a weapon and political tool against other countries that stand against its interests and allies. Several countries around the world, including China, Russia, Zimbabwe, and others, have suffered under the hegemony of the US as it uses sanctions as a weapon. The case of Russia made it glaringly obvious to the world that if it could happen to Russia, it could also happen to them, and this is how the de-dollarization campaign began with Brics, an alternative to the existing global order, at its helm. Since the 15th Brics Summit held in August 2023, this new alliance has taken the world by storm, with more than 40 countries clamoring to join it. Brics, formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is now called Brics Plus, as it added 5 new members including Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the UAE after its 15th summit. The aim of this alliance is to create a viable alternative to the present international system, which is largely dominated by the US and its allies, set up economic institutions that would favor every country, create a new reserve currency, and decrease the dependency on the West. As stated earlier, the current international system is dominated by the US dollar, which accounts for about 90% of all currency trading. And, until recently, nearly 100% of oil trading was conducted in US dollars. However, as a result of the depolarization efforts from members of Brics, 1/5 of oil trade was reportedly made using non-US dollar currencies in 2023. To further strengthen their efforts, Brics has decided to create a common currency that would not only reduce the world's dependence on the dollar to trade, but also the power of the US to influence foreign policy by using the dollar as a weapon. Initially, it was believed that the new currency would be announced during the 15th Brics Summit. However, it ended without any announcement from the organization regarding a currency. However, in November 2023, Russia's former advisor to the president and economist-turned-politician Sergei Glazyev made a huge announcement on the formation of the upcoming Brics currency. According to Sergei, the Brics currency is already in the works. He confirmed that the new Brics currency is almost ready for launch and needs fine-tuning before its release. The Brics currency is almost ready and needs political consent, he said. He further added that, in order to launch this currency, we need the political consent of the Brics countries, 3 of which have already expressed their support for the idea of introducing a new currency through their heads of state. So, 3 out of the original 5 countries are supporting the currency while 2 other nations are yet to provide their opinion. Although he didn't specify the 2 countries, in our opinion, it might probably be India and Brazil. We say India because they have said in the past that they do not want to launch a new currency, but instead work on improving the rupee. However, they have not been quite successful at this, as there has been little appetite to exchange oil for rupees. But, according to Sergei, if the 2 countries provide their consent, then the Brics currency has a chance of being released during the 16th Brics Summit to be held this year. Since this news, there have been speculations on what the currency will be. Some have theorized that the currency will be backed by a basket of commodities including gold, given that in recent times, members of Brics have been purchasing gold ravenously. However, in March 2024, Russia, the current leadership of BRICS released an official statement regarding the development of the currency. According to the statement, the new currency will likely be a digital currency and blockchain-based. There was no news regarding whether or not it would be backed by gold, but it appears to be a common currency with goals larger than one limited to transactions between governments. Russia says, "We believe that creating an independent BRICS currency payment system is an important goal for the future, which would be based on state-of-the-art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain. The main thing is to ensure that it is convenient for governments, common people, and business people, as well as cost-effective and free of politics." So as you can see, the idea behind the currency is not just to settle transactions between governments, but also for it to be used by the common people, meaning you and I. Right now, there is no known date on when it will be launched, but the question is, what will be the impact of the currency on global finance when it is launched? Well, currently, the G7 countries, which have been at the center of international politics and economics, account for about $46 trillion in GDP, while BRICS accounts for $30.8 trillion. However, the population of the G7 countries is just about 750 to 800 million people, whereas the BRICS nation represents over 3.3 billion people. So if this common currency is eventually launched and adopted over time by these 3.3 billion people, what do you think will be the impact on the dollar? Imagine, for example, the currency is backed by gold, which it probably might be. Once the currency is adopted by 3.3 billion people, it will no doubt reduce the demand for the dollar, and the Petrodollar agreement will no longer hold, meaning countries might no longer buy oil with the dollar. And once the demand for the dollar reduces, the value will also reduce, leading to an increase in the price of gold, which correlates with the dollar. This process will no doubt take years, but eventually the dollar will be dethroned. It's similar to what happened when the euro was launched and new notes distributed, which promoted an immediate rebalancing of funds held by central banks. This caused the dollar to fall slightly, and the euro continued to gain share over time at the expense of the dollar. Currently, the euro sits at about 20% of foreign exchange reserves. If history repeats itself, this is what would happen between the BRICS currency and the dollar. The launch of this currency will no doubt put an end to the hegemony of the United States and its allies. And, in line with this effort to reduce the power of the US, Russia confirmed on February 4, 2024, its efforts to create a new payment system without including the US dollar. For a long time, Russia has been aiming to create a payment mechanism aimed at settling cross-border transactions with BRICS and other developing countries in a new currency. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed this, saying that Russia is moving towards creating a new payment mechanism without the dollar. He also described the traditional world order dominated by the dollar as unreliable, wrong, and dangerous. Even before this announcement, BRICS members such as India, China, Russia, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, and Saudi Arabia have moved towards using local currencies in international trade agreements. In addition, BRICS countries are accelerating their efforts to establish their own internet services without being dependent on American technology, thus opening the way for investors who have turned to the US to turn to the BRICS. On February 5th, Elvira Nabiullina, the governor of the Central Bank of Russia, revealed that 20 countries have adopted the Russian payment system in order to abandon the dollar, in line with BRICS plans for dollar independence. Russia stated that there is an alternative to the SWIFT system, which already has more than 159 foreign participants. According to Russia, the alternative to SWIFT aims to reduce overdependence on the US dollar. Launched in 2023, the BRICS Pay initiative will continue to help plans for dollar independence in the coming years. The rhetoric of challenging the Western payment system has become an important infrastructure element, especially for the BRICS alliance. And it is currently building a world order with its own institutions and currency. Now, how would the BRICS currency affect African countries? It's not news that most African countries have expressed interest in joining the BRICS alliance, and Africa as a whole is an important aspect of the BRICS alliance. If the BRICS currency is launched and adopted by African countries, it would help to improve the economy of African countries whose economies are failing as a result of their currencies falling against the dollar. the high interest rate on loans which have accumulated to massive debts, and the general dependence on the US dollar. Without a doubt, working with BRICS is the way forward for Africa. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.